Fasten your seatbelts for the realest Eagles and Sixers YouTuber! One who plays no clickbait and gets to the point! The myth, the legend, Nicky Stees! Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. I'm simply statue think and slate, dropping unrealistic mad 2K takes for the clip. Even though cats like that get views closer to the milli, never hear me preach, flip on to Philly. Before you watch the Eagles all the way through to early 22, authentic talk, forget what others do. Come to my channel, you know the deal. Yo, boy, always keeps things real. The 24/7, 365 way. Sports content for the reals to fill the day. Good morning, folks. It is around that time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday. That means on the Hardcore Sports Network YouTube's channel and the Nicky Stees YouTube channel, it's time for the 3-Point Blitz. This time around, September 9th is episode 25, folks. Let's get to it. No, that's right, folks. We are live. We're fresh off the Monday night game to close out week 1 between the Minnesota Vikings and Chicago Bears. And for NFL season, being this is our first time doing the 3-Point Blitz during the season, here's what we're going to do. During football season, it's pretty much going to be football-based. It'll be interesting once we get to around Christmas time for the NBA season when that picks up a little bit with the NBA Cup. But for now, it's football time, folks. We're just here to talk about football. We're going to go through all the games. I'm going to do my rant of the week. Rant about what's, I'm going to rant about football subject, of course. Give me 1 minute. We'll get to it. We're going to do a rant about that. Then I'm going to go through each game, give a brief overview of it. And that's pretty much what's going to go down on these 3-Point Blitz episodes, especially in the early NFL season. Now, without any further ado, folks, let's get right into it. Like I said, we're doing this live on my channel, and then of course the the Hardcore Sports Network. We doing this live. Give me 1 minute, folks. Be right back. All right, we good. That's my neighbor's door. That's all right. Mitch say you at the gym tuning in. All right. Got Mitch stopping by in the chat tuning in. And speaking of Mitch, shout out to Mitch because later tonight he'll be joining me live on a Hardcore Sports Network exclusive at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. NFL Pick'ems Week 2. NFL season is right around the corner, which means the return of NFL Pick'ems exclusively on the Hardcore Sports Network is back. This year, your boy Nicky Steve is going to be the host again. Every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, starting September 2nd to preview Week 1. Each week on the Pick'ems, we'll have full list of games, special guests, injury reports, debates, predictions, and hot takes for the week. All on NFL Pick'ems, exclusively on the Hardcore Sports Network, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday throughout the NFL season. That's right, folks. Me and Mitch will be doing that later tonight. I'm going to get more people to join us. All right, Mitch, looking forward to it. What are your thoughts on the NFL games this week, David? We're going to get right into that in just a minute. And perfectly timed our coup. Who you putting on the grill? Well, you asked right at the right time because we're going to kick this off with the rant of the week. We're going to start off by talking about what went down Sunday night. The Baltimore Ravens losing to the Buffalo Bills with what looked like a sizable lead to close it out. And it turns out they lost again. Now, we know the Buffalo Bills, especially in the John Harbaugh era, have had a habit of choking away big leads late in games. 2022, early in the season against the Giants. Remember that one? We saw it last year against the Raiders. And we've seen it on several other occasions. But remember 2021, that late stretch where Tyler Huntley filled in for Lamar. They lost a lot of close games by less than 3 points, under 2 minutes left. But now Sunday was pretty much the nail in the coffin. So Sunday night, I'm on the couch watching this game. It's looking like a foregone conclusion. The Baltimore Ravens are going to win. Now, for my weekly pick'ems, I had the Bills, so I'm kind of thinking, oh, man, this ain't going to pan out. I'm going to take the L here. Looks like Baltimore's bound to win it. So then I end up going to sleep thinking it's over. And guess what? Guess what happens? Hey, Arku, I got you. Salute to Arku. And guess what happens? The freaking Buffalo Bills come back, win the game. Now, not to take anything away from the Bills. They deserve credit for coming back and winning. Josh Allen, hey, he was my starting quarterback in my fantasy league, so I'm giving Josh Allen props where props is due. He did his thing, and I'm happy about that. But at the same time, for the rant of the week portion, Baltimore, dude, this is why I'm not sold on the Baltimore Ravens winning a second Super Bowl in the Harbaugh era. This is exactly why. Their inability to close games and their inability to perform in big game situations in the playoffs are the two reasons I'm not sold on it. I mean, bottom line, we've seen this happen. Like I said, we talked about the regular season ones. Like I said about the Giants ones. I talked about the 2021, a lot of the losses, late games. And now, here we are now. Guess what? They happened again against Buffalo in a game that they were all but guaranteed to win. Derrick Henry was having himself a good performance. DeAndre Hopkins had a nice catch showing he still has it. He may not be peak DeAndre Hopkins, but he can still from time to time make those nice plays. And it was looking all well. It was looking like it was going to be a big road win for the Ravens. But then the team collapsed late. They took their foot off the gas pedal, let Josh Allen cook late, and Chef Allen let it come back. And to their credit. And like I said, it's good for me because I had Josh Allen in my fantasy league. He pretty much all but put it away for me in my league on the Hardcore Sports Network game because he left my opponent in a hole where he needed 50 points from his guys in the Monday night game, which did not happen. Toot toot. But hey, that's what it's not just the Ravens losing this game. It's happened repeatedly. There's a stat line I'm going to share with you guys to show how many times this has happened. Give me 1 second. 17 double-digit blown leads. So that's 17 times in the second half that the Ravens blew a double-digit lead and ended up losing. The most by a coach since 1991. Most of these have happened in recent years. That's why I am not sold on. That's why I'm not sold on Harbaugh. That's why I'm not sold on Harbaugh being able to win another Super Bowl with this team. As talented as this team is, as great a quarterback as Lamar is during the regular season. Look, this team has a lot of great players on it. But the bottom line is, when it comes to closing big games, when it comes to performing in the playoffs, this team led by John Harbaugh cannot close and seal the deal. And that's why I can't see them winning a Super Bowl with as long as John Harbaugh is the coach. And that's not a knock against Harbaugh. Harbaugh has consistently been a good regular season coach. He's easily the best coach in Ravens franchise history. Easily miles better than Brian Billick, who was the coach when they won that first Super Bowl. But so I'm not saying this to trash him, but Harbaugh's big thing that holds him back from being able to win another Super Bowl or reach another Super Bowl for that matter is being able to close big games and perform in the playoffs. We've seen this time and time and time again. I could see if this was maybe just a once or twice. If, say, you had the blown lead in 2022 against the Giants, and then you had this one here, okay, it happens. It's a coincidence. Okay, I get it. Every team loses games they're up, and they should close the deal on. It happens to all teams. You can take any of the 32 teams in the NFL. It's all going to happen at some point. You don't want it to, but it's one thing. Okay, maybe once it happens, but when it's happening consistently on a regular basis, like I said, 17 double-digit blown leads by Harbaugh as the head coach, that's a pattern. That's a common denominator. Just like back weeks ago when Coach joined me on the 3-point blitz and we talked about domestic violence, the pattern, the repetition, you got to point the finger. Now, obviously, in this case, I don't mean to compare domestic violence to losing sports games. Those are two far different things. Domestic violence is far more serious. Where it is similar is the repetition aspect. When you're the common denominator in these situations, people are going to point at you. In this case, John Harbaugh is the common denominator that's been there through a lot of these blown double-digit leads in the second half that turned into losses. And we saw it happen again on Sunday. So for the Ravens, as talented as they are, as much of a good fan base as they have a loyal fan base. That's a really good, there's a lot of positive to say about the Baltimore Ravens as an organization. They've only been in the NFL since technically they're the original Cleveland Browns, but they've only been considered in the NFL since 1996, have won 2 Super Bowls in that stretch, been to 5 conference championship games since 1996. That's an impressive feat. Been to the playoffs a lot, but the bottom line is they're underachievers, and that's where I call them out on. They constantly underachieve. They fail to close games. And that's the one thing that holds this team from being one of those missing ring teams to a great team. That's the difference right there. Inability to close games and wins. And John Harbaugh he's not the only person to blame, but he's the main contributing factor to this. This even goes back to the late Flacco years before they switched the helm. So, yeah, that's the biggest flaw John Harbaugh has is closing games. And that's the reason I'm not sold on the Ravens winning a Super Bowl with this current core. And that's where I'm going to leave it at for here. So for the Baltimore, unless the Ravens prove me wrong and actually do win a Super Bowl, I'm going to stick by that stance till the end of time, unless proven wrong. So look, Harbaugh, a lot of good to say about him, but he has one flaw that stands out the most is he can't close games. But with that being said, I'm going to step aside for just 1 minute, be right back. Then we're going to talk about all the games as itself. Go through the games a little bit each by each, starting with the Thursday night game, finishing off with Monday night. It'll just be 1 minute, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. Thanks for your patience, but we are back now. We're going to switch gears and we're going to talk about the NFL games, starting with what went down Thursday night with the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles against the Dallas Cowboys. What a game. So that ends up certainly being an interesting game for sure. I mean, the first half, look, put aside fan bias for just a minute, whether you're an Eagles or Cowboys fan. It was a fun game in the first half, minus the cluster elements with Dak and Jalen Carter, some of the brief scuffles after plays. It was a fun first half. Every drive resulted in points in some way, shape, or form. Eagles were able to march down the field, get numerous touchdowns. Cowboys got numerous touchdowns on us. Overall, it was a defensive struggle and a good offensive first half. You put aside the fan bias. And yes, the weather delay did slow down the game. And for sure. Now, I kind of look at it this way, because some people are going to say the weather delay helped the Eagles win. But you know what? This kind of reminds me of the Fog Bowl from years back. You guys don't know, the Fog Bowl was a game back in the 80s during that Montana era. Eagles were playing the Bears in a playoff game. Bears were winning at halftime. Then it became real foggy. They continued the game, but it was so foggy that pretty much you couldn't play. I mean, they probably shouldn't have played, but they let them play. And it was a foregone conclusion the team that was winning at the time, the Bears, were going to win. Now, this time around, the weather delay is a little different because you had a brief stop, but you resumed the game. But you could ultimately say, the weather delay, but that's not really an excuse, though, because especially for Cowboys fans, you got to factor in CeeDee Lamb dropped numerous passes that could have changed the outcome of the game. You can partially blame CD as well for that, not just the weather delay. You can blame your defense for struggling to stop the run and pretty much just leaving openings for Jalen Hurts to scramble and run, pretty much run all over your defense, for lack of a better term. No pause. But yeah, that's pretty much what happened. So yeah, that means pretty much the foregone conclusion. So pretty much that played a huge role in it right there. And like I said, I gotta say though, to be credit where credit's due, Dak Prescott, he looked good in the first half. He played well. completions were on point, which is expected because Dak, we always known Dak is a good regular season quarterback. Man, making this thing more fun, man. Making this more fun for you guys. And plus, hey, sometimes in life you never know how much longer you got left. If there's certain clothes that you want to wear, then by all means wear it. Don't wait, for the special occasion. There's no guarantee that, hey, there's no guarantee you're going to get the chance to wear it. So wear it while you can. But yeah. So like I said, man, that was, Dak looked pretty good in that game. He played well. And even Javonte Williams, he had to look solid on the run game behind that offensive line. And, like I said, it's only 1 week, but we're going to see where they go from here. Like I said, with the Cowboys, with Dak, he's a good regular season quarterback, but we're going to have to wait and see how they do from there. We have to wait and see if they close games or not. For the Eagles, they got to win. It wasn't pretty, but you got to remember it's only week 1. And, when most teams nowadays don't play their guys in preseason, usually it takes a few weeks for teams to get the chemistry back up and shake off the rust from the offseason. So it's not really that much of a surprise. It's that teams, take maybe a week or two to get it together. But what kind of was a surprise was what happened over in Brazil. The Chargers beat Kansas City, and Justin Herbert had himself a good performance. The big kicker was it was without Rashawn Slater. And I'll give him props, man. Good performance by Justin Herbert and a much-needed win. Long overdue. It was funny. I was scrolling on my personal Facebook on Saturday, like during the afternoon sometime, and one of my buddies, a Chargers fan, posted something in his story, and I messaged him. Finally, it's about time. He's like, I know, that's what I'm saying in response. I mean, he was happy because I'm telling you, from talking about football, he told me that Kansas City was a thorn in his side, both in terms of versus his team and in terms of, watching Kansas City get to and win multiple Super Bowls over and over again. I mean, so for the Chargers, they finally got that much needed win, particularly when the Justin Herbert era, because while their trend has been in big games, be competitive, but always lose and fall short. This go around, the Chargers finally found a way to win against Kansas City and get a big win. So I got to give the Chargers props on that. Now for Kansas City, we can say, they're going to start come crashing down. They're going to crash down, but we've seen this drill before. I don't believe it till I see it. I mean, yes, we destroyed them in the Super Bowl, but, there's always the possibility they could come back this season and do something. Let's give it time. Now, Kansas City's struggling mid-season. Maybe we could say something, but then again, remember 2021, they kind of started off sluggish, but rallied back and made the conference championship. So we'll still wait and see. But for now, great start for the Chargers. They can build their momentum from here going into their week 2 matchup against the Raiders, which looks favorable right there. I mean, the Raiders, they won against the Patriots, but it wasn't really an inspiring performance. So maybe that's favorable for the Chargers. But we'll talk about that more, me and Mitch and maybe a few other guests later tonight on the Pick'ems exclusively on the Hardcore Sports Network. But good for the Chargers. We'll see what both teams do from here. And now, moving right along, if Chad's anywhere in the chat or he stops by, this would be the perfect time. We're talking about his team. The Pittsburgh Steelers defeat the New York Jets. Yep, Brock Bowers went out. Yep, and we'll get to that too in a minute. Brock Bowers went out. But yeah, as I was saying, let's see, Steelers Jets. What a great game, man. Arco definitely. We'll get to injuries in a little bit. Going to talk about that at the end. But Steelers Jets, I was surprised. This ended up being a high-scoring game. But most of us, I know a lot of you guys were thinking this was probably going to be like a 19-13, 22-17 final score game. Instead, we got 34-32 Steelers win. This was a bit of a surprise that we got as many points scored by both teams as we did. But sometimes that's the fun of football. We find out firsthand. But actually, that made this a fun game, though. So I'm actually glad we ended up getting more points than most of us projected. You had Aaron Rodgers threw 4 touchdown passes. That's now the second game. That's the first quarterback to have consecutive games with 4 touchdown passes for 2 different franchises, which is ironic because his tenure with the Jets was a train wreck from him being unable to perform his first season to mostly being bad his one season he played. But he did at least with the Jets close out on a high note by throwing 4 touchdowns in the final game. Starts with the Steelers next game and throws 4 touchdown passes. So at least Rodgers still can have a little bit of a high note. And you got Arcus saying the Jets are the better New York team. But hey, you know what? Hey, but that's the fun of finding out, man. That's the fun of finding out. We'll see if you're right or not over time, man. But they did certainly look that way week 1. That's for sure. You're definitely right about week 1. They absolutely played better. And even Justin Fields, he was 16 for 22, 218 yards with a touchdown through the air to Wilson. He had 2 scores on the ground, 48 yards. Justin Fields had a few decent passes in this game, which is maybe optimistic that you're hoping maybe Justin Fields might finally find himself as a passer. It's like Blaze Radio says, switching helms for a second, but like Blaze Radio will say on the Pick and Roll podcast when we talk basketball, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 tries to find the right fit. Now, maybe Justin Fields, though, that's what's going on here. Maybe he's found his fit with the Jets, but time will tell. Maybe a few weeks, you know, he's still balling out and he's found his fit. But hey, man, now for Rodgers, I got to give credit. He might still have something left in the tank, throwing 4 touchdown passes. Now, obviously, he's not going to be prime Aaron Rodgers. I don't see them as Super Bowl contenders. However, I do feel that Rodgers could still have his flashes of brilliance and at least have himself a respectable farewell tour. But also, we got some news come out of this too today. The Steelers made a signing just recently. They added some depth to safety, and we're going to talk about that in just 1 second. I'll show you the screen. So the Steelers signed safety Jabril Peppers from free agency. And so now the Steelers got some depth. They got a lot of depth at their corner, bro. They got Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey. You got Jabril Peppers now joining in with the Steelers, which I admit was a bit of a surprise. I knew Peppers was going to get picked up, but the Steelers? I was a bit surprised by that. I was thinking maybe more a team like the Colts or the Raiders would be more of a fit. But I think for a team standpoint, Peppers is better off on the Steelers than he was with the Patriots because we've seen the Patriots in recent years. Not exactly the same culture it once was. We'll get to them in a minute. But with that being said, though, the Steelers ended up winning this game. And then it was a great game, though. I was actually happy we got a more exciting game than expected. But we got to give credit where credit's due to Chris Boswell, too. He hit that huge field goal at the end to give the Steelers the lead and ultimately seal the game. Because without that made field goal, ultimately they wouldn't have won this game. So we'd be talking about a 4-touchdown performance by Rodgers in a losing effort. So that was the difference there. But moving right along, we'll talk about the Jaguars versus the Panthers. We had ourselves Travis Etienne Jr. had himself a hell of a game. I mean, it was against the Carolina Panthers, mind you, but it was a good game, and do-ball football started off on a high note. For the Panthers, man, for going into year 3 with Bryce Young on a prove-it season, this is not the start you were hoping for from him. You were hoping for something more efficient, but we didn't really get that. The Panthers offense, the best part about it was Chuba Hubbard, who was good enough to help me in my fantasy league. But overall, man, this was just not a great game, though. I mean, the Jaguars, like I said, Travis Etienne Jr., congrats, shout out to him for having himself a pretty good game. And, he helped lead the Jaguars to victory, but we still got to wait and see where both teams go from here. Because while the Jaguars did get a nice win, 143 yards from Etienne, there's still a lot of question marks going forward concerning them because the Jaguars are still projected to be a mediocre to not so good team despite their victory in this one. He did have Trevor Lawrence got a touchdown, but he also passed out of it, but also threw an interception. Bryce Young threw 2 picks. His quarterback rating was 49, just not a good game. Hubbard was 57 yards, and he also caught 3 receptions for 32 at a touchdown. That helped in my fantasy league, but that's the only good thing out of this game for me. But so that's coming from a personal standpoint. But for the Panthers, it's not so good. And that ties into the next point. We traded for Tank Bigsby. The Philadelphia Eagles gave up a few extra picks for Tank Bigsby. Now, the reason we did this is because we were dealing with an injury. We had Will Shipley had an injury. But I guess I haven't seen the official update, but it must be more serious than projected, being that the Eagles wanted Tank Bigsby in the lineup. So this injury might be a serious injury that could put him out for a long time. It hasn't been confirmed yet about Shipley, but the fact that we traded for Tank Bigsby as a depth piece goes to tell me that obviously this injury is serious and the Eagles want a good backup piece. But I'll put it this way. Chef Howie Roseman's cooking a delicious appetizer, no pun intended, by bringing in a good depth piece in Tank Bigsby. So if A.J. Dillon doesn't get as many reps, maybe Bigsby will be the number 2. Or if, God forbid, Saquon gets hurt because of the Madden curse, then you got mostly Bigsby and A.J. Dillon as a 1-2 duo. So we'll have to wait and see how this pays out. But Bigsby, if utilized, could certainly be a good addition to the Eagles' offense. But we got to wait and see. Now, for the Jaguars, hey, it's nice that they got to start the season with a win, but we got to see where they go from there. And speaking of that, let's talk about the AFC South Division rival, the Indianapolis Colts, curb stomping the Miami Dolphins 33-8. I said going into the season, I thought the Colts could be a decent team, and I still do, obviously, based on their week 1 performance. I think they could be. Hey, I mean, I think some people are taking them for granted, thinking they're going to be a dumpster fire. You know, they're going to be terrible. I even said when they made the trade, I feel Daniel Jones could perform better in this situation. Well, not the trade, but when they decided they're going to make Jones a starter over Richardson, pardon me, I said, okay, maybe Daniel Jones plays better and has a bit of a redemption story. And week 1, he looked pretty solid against the Dolphins. Now, granted, with all due respect, I think this says more about the Dolphins than it does the Colts. But and considering how sluggish the Texans looked against the Rams, and CJ Stroud looks like he's fallen off, if he continues down the road he's headed down, CJ Stroud's going to be remembered as a one-year wonder if he continues down this path. So if that continues this year, that could be a wide open AFC South, maybe open for the Colts to take. But again, this is only week 1. We still got to wait and see. I know it sounds like a cliche saying. Let's see how it plays out. But week 1, I'll give the Colts credit. Daniel Jones played better, and the team did what they had to do. But this says more about the Dolphins than anything. I know the Dolphins have some locker room drama going on, but they still have a pretty decent roster. I at least figured this team would at least, if healthy, be competitive. They weren't even competitive in a game they were favorite to win, that most of us in the weekly pick'ems pool were picking to win this game. This is what they did right here. They disappointed and fell flat. They played like they had no pulse, basically. And don't be surprised, Mike McDaniels, he's definitely on the hot seat now. Don't get me wrong. And Tua I didn't see anything at all that inspired confidence this season goes. And Arku's telling Dolphins fans you can blame Tyreek Hill for this. Yeah. Tyreek Hill, man. That whole locker room drama, man. There's too much drama. First it was the Ramsey drama. Now it's the Hill drama continuing. That's that drama and injuries are the main downfall for this team in recent years. And then it became more evident here, though. So congrats to the Colts, and for the Dolphins, I think the seat's getting hotter for them. Moving right along, let's talk real quickly. Cardinals beat the Saints 20-13. Kyler Murray had himself a decent performance, but this still wasn't anything great. And I even asked I know you guys follow me. You've heard me talk about I have a work buddy who's a Cardinals fan. Sure enough, I texted him on Sunday night, asked him what he thought of the Cardinals game. He even said a win's a win, which I figured, but it's funny because I text him figuring, okay, he saw the game. He'll actually know more about it than I will. So I figured I could get a little intake from him. I initially saw the score, saw some of the stats, and thought didn't look like a great game from the Cardinals, but a win. So I figured, all right, why don't I text someone who's actually a Cardinals fan, see what they think? And they pretty much confirmed the same thing that I thought just from looking at the stats that, yes, it's a win, but it's not that great of a win. And the Cardinals, I mean, Kyler Murray, yeah, he's a talented quarterback. He can, he's made the Pro Bowl. He started in the playoffs, but he's an underachiever, man. He is. And the Cardinals are that team that they're constant underachieving franchise. And that, you know what? And the thing is, with this team, anytime they make a playoff run, we always think it's a fluke and that they'll fall right off the map afterward. And this is why. You remember 2021, it was looking like the Cardinals were going to get back in contention. Then they collapsed late in the season, bounced in the wild card. 2022, meh. Through most of the season, Murray gets injured. 2023, they mostly bad, but Murray was out most of the season, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Last year on an easy schedule, they started off with some hope, collapsed late, and missed out. Now, they did start with a win, but against the Saints team, with all due respect, starting Spencer Rattler, who's 0-7 as a starter between the last two seasons. And this, folks, is who they're putting in there. I mean, that's right. Yo, Blaze, what is up? We got Blaze Radio stopping by in the chat for this one. And for now, all I was going to say, though, hey, it's a win for the Cardinals. I'll give them that. But we have to wait and see what both teams do from here. But I'm not exactly, neither team inspired confidence for me. Now, moving on, we're going to talk about a team that actually does have some confidence going, the Washington Commanders. Now, the final score doesn't say that this was a great game, but the Commanders did what was expected. They beat the Giants. They kept them in check to only 6 points. Their offense scored enough points to win the game. You say it's only 21 points, but to be fair, it's only week 1 of the season. Like I say, most guys don't put their starters out for preseason. It'll take a few weeks for them to get back into shape, get the chemistry going as starters. But hey, a win's a win for the Commanders. They did what was expected. So, and you hear our coo, oh, the Giants. Yep. This is why I didn't expect much from them. This is why, I mean, Russell Wilson, I'll put it this way. The sooner he retires, the better for his legacy. I'll put it that way. The longer he stays, the worse off for his legacy. I mean, now we just got to wonder how much longer before Jackson Dart becomes the starter. And then that's what, hey, congrats to the Commanders. They did what they needed to do, get the win. We'll see what they do Thursday night against the Packers. Me and Mitch will talk about that later tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Moving right along, we got the Buccaneers beat the Falcons in a competitive game. Now, granted, the Buccaneers and Falcons may not be the best teams in the NFL, but problem isn't Russ, it's the organization. That is true. But at the same time, the last couple seasons, Russ's false, shady performances and his shortcomings have been consistent with the Broncos. At the Steelers, it started off good, but then it kind of fell apart later. Now at the Giants. So, yes, the Giants do play a role, but I also feel like Russell Wilson playing past his prime plays a role as well. So it's a little bit of both. Yeah, but that's more of an organizational failure too on the Giants' behalf with the O-line. It's not just, oh my gosh, they can't draft, they can't. It's not just that too. It's also that they can't play. Yeah, they don't have the right pieces. They've been it's been abysmal for the recent years. It has been. And that's it. But yeah, man, let's face it. But that's what I was saying though for the Giants, man. Look, man, they got a whole. They're in a deep rebuild, dude. And Blaze says Dart will start by week 5. At this rate, definitely. Jackson Dart will definitely be starting for the end of the season for sure. But we gonna have to wait and see what happens. Now, Smith, right along, we had the Buccaneers did beat the Falcons. We can all agree on one thing. We all love the Giants' misery, except for Giants fans. At this point, man, but we gonna have to wait and see how it plays out. It looks like it's gonna play out that way. We just gonna wait and see how it specifically goes down. But I gotta say, for the Buccaneers and Falcons, like I said, these games, these are good games. Not the two best teams in the NFL, but when they match up head to head, they usually pan out for fun games. And the Bucks and Falcons had another fun game that came down to the wire. It came down to a Kumis field goal, but for the Buccaneers, they had themselves a new toy at wide receiver who caught 2 touchdown passes in his debut. Igbu, if I'm mispronouncing that, you can correct me, but he had himself a good performance, 2 touchdown passes, including the late game winner. Chad, what's up? What is up? Now we're getting going with the chat. We got David, Chad, Arku, Blaze, rocking and rolling with the chat, folks. That's right. Let's keep this thing rolling. Keep talking about week 1 NFL football. Yep, that's right. You got Chad and Blaze. You guys missed it. I talked about Aaron Rodgers. I give you guys prop. That was a fun game. And so was this. Buccaneers, Falcons. Bucks beat the Falcons. Snapped their losing streak to them. And even Michael Penix Jr., he had his flashes at times. It's one of those things where maybe just give the guys some more experience. Maybe as the season goes along, the Falcons might start winning more games. But we gonna have to wait and see, man. But for now, hey, Baker Mayfield, he's good with that Bucks offense. I'm not quite sold on Baker being elite, but he is good. And I feel like now, if you're looking for a team that can win regular season games, Baker Mayfield's your go-to quarterback. So, hey, Baker did his thing. I'll give him props. Like I said, they have a new rookie wide receiver who looked good in that offense. You still got Mike Evans there. Good start for the Buccaneers. Falcons, hey, they put up a hell of an effort, but let's see if they find a way to close games. Now, this one right here. I mean, the Bengals won, which was expected, but only 17 points. If you thought anything, I thought the Bengals would at least have scored more points, man. But I guess the Bengals get a win. Hats off to another 8 or 9 win season for Cincinnati. We'll see where they go from there. Raiders and Patriots. This game was kind of a disappointment for me. And the reason why, I was expecting Genty and Henderson to do more. But to be fair, this is the 2 running backs' respective first game in the NFL. Let's give them time to develop. I'm not going to judge Genty and Henderson for disappointing statistical debuts because it's only their first game in the NFL, respectively. It's going to take a little bit of time. It's going to take a few weeks for them to adjust to playing at the NFL level. Let's see how they do by the end of the season. And Arku said Gino looked good. And yeah, that's to be expected. He does have Pete Carroll's former head coach. We know as Blaze, I point to Blaze, like he'll say on the Pick and Roll podcast when we talk basketball. Sometimes the player's got to find the right fit. For Geno Smith, he was that guy in the NFL. It took a few tries for him to finally find that right fit. First, it was with Pete Carroll's head coach in Seattle. Worked out perfectly. Pete Carroll took the job with the Raiders. Now he's reunited with his former coach. And Geno Smith had, finally, he found his niche playing under Pete Carroll. He found the right fit in Pete Carroll's offense. And it showed here. Now, I'm still not sure about the Raiders the rest of the season, but hey, they found a way to win. You also had a pretty solid outing. And a win's a win for the Raiders, man. Patriots, man, they still got a long way to go to me, bro. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens. Moving right along, 49ers Seahawks. I'll put it that Seahawks, what I saw from the 49ers, a win's a win, but this was not an impressive win. I still got a lot of concerns. And Brock Purdy, man, that extension's not looking like the best contract in the world right now after 2 interceptions. Yes, it's true. Purdy did throw the game winner, so he somewhat redeems himself, but this was not exactly an inspiring performance. Raiders look way better than last year anyway. And yes, through one game they did, but that's also in part because you got Pete Carroll, a guy who, at least, an experienced head coach, you're going to find a way to at least make something of it. But we're going to have to wait and see from here. But for now, the Raiders do get the win. And speaking of teams that got the win, the 49ers got the win, but I was not impressed with their performance. Now, for Seattle goes, Darnold, yeah, I kind of had a feeling Darnold was the better fit in Minnesota. And with 49ers, yeah, they've been hit with, Eric who said, like I was going to get to, George Kittle's out for an extended period of time. This is looking like another long season thus far. So I'd say the 49ers, they're looking like losers even in victory so far. And for the Seahawks, with McDonald, their defense looked good despite allowing the game-winning touchdown drive. They got 2 picks off Purdy. And, they kept the 49ers offense in check and limited their efficiency. So I got to give the defense credit. They did their best. Seahawks offense is a little bit of concern, but speaking of defense, I got to give Nick Bosa credit. Say what you want to say about the guy. You may not like him personally, but he came up with the big play when needed to, especially late in the game when it looked like the Seahawks were going down the field for a game-winning drive. Those helped snatch some momentum away. Game-stealing turnover. Niners escape with a victory week 1. Now we just got to wait and see where they go from here. Now moving on to the more interesting story. The Green Bay Packers slaughter the Detroit Lions 27-13. Detroit, the Packers. I mean, we knew the Packers defense would look good with Parsons in the mix, but we did not expect them to dominate the Detroit Lions this much because the Detroit Lions were the top offense in the NFL last season. Well, that goes to show you what happens when you lose Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn to head coaching roles. Your whole team looks a lot different trying to adjust without some of the key pieces to last year's success. Now, it's only week 1, like I said, but like I said, it will take some time to get going. But for this week, give the Packers credit. That defense looked great. Parsons didn't have a great statistical performance, only 1 tackle, 1 sack, but he did make his impact felt. He got a few pressures that played a role in helping out. He had 1 pressure that led to an interception. So Parsons didn't play great statistically, but he did have his plays that helped out. And like I said with Parsons, you might not see great stats early on while he's still adjusting to the system. And plus, with other playmakers there, too, such as Jair Alexander, what's his face on the defensive line again? Rashawn Gary, Parsons doesn't have to carry the load as much, so he might not have the same stats. It might take a few weeks for him to get acclimated. So, but either way, the Packers defense as a whole looked great. It's all about the team. And in this case, the team did its thing and they took care of business. So I'll give props where props is due. Let's give props is due. The Green Bay Packers did their thing. Detroit Lions looked off, but it's only 1 week. I'm not going to give up on them just yet. Maybe they just need some time to get used to a new offensive and defensive coordinator. And maybe by October and November, they'll have it turn the ship around to what we expected. But I'm going to at least give them time and see what happens. Moving right along, the Rams and Texans. Dude. Still early, long way to go. That's right. Yep, that's what I said. That's why I'm not being too hard on the Lions just yet. I'm going to give them time. And even the Texans, even though I'm going to kind of contradict what I said about giving them time, I'm a little bit concerned about the Texans. Here's why. Last year, Stroud ended up having a sophomore slump. Stroud ended up having a sophomore slump last year, and then they start off week 1 of the next season. They didn't play that great. Then they started off this one, not such a good game. And that was one of those things where, but what was I looking to say? Like, but this year the Rams and Texans, the Rams tech. I mean, the Rams won, but this was just a sloppy game, bro. I mean, I don't even know. CJ Stroud with the Texans. I mean, he just did not look that great. I mean, last year he had the sophomore slump, and he started off sluggish here. It was week 1 of his 3rd season. Could be a red flag. Maybe CJ Stroud might be a 1-year wonder. I don't know. Not looking great for the Texans. And for the Rams, yeah, they won, but well, to be fair, Stafford missed most of training camp, so he's getting back into football shape, shaking off the rust. So I'll give him a few times. And Arku said Kyren Williams was good in fantasy. So we'll leave it at that. I'm more concerned about the Texans, mainly because it looked like a continuation of the slump from last season with CJ Stroud. Now, if this would have been a high-scoring game where Stroud looked good, I'd be a little more optimistic for the Texans. But considering it looks like a continuation of last year, if CJ Stroud starts to prove me wrong, I'll give him props. But as of now, I'm not optimistic. And then you got the Bills and Ravens. And then the Bills ended up beating the Ravens 41-40. Like we said, I ranted about the Ravens blowing leads, but I got to give credit to the Bills. They went out there at home in the home opener and got the W. Yes, the Ravens collapsing does play a role in you winning for sure, but you still got to be able to get the job done and pull off the comeback successfully. And the Bills deserve props. Josh Allen ended up having himself an excellent performance. Did what we expected to her and reminded us why he was the MVP. So good job there. Got to give credit where credit's due. Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills did their thing, but concern is defense. To be fair, they have key injuries to their defensive line, but but we still got to give them time. We got to see what happens. Though. What are the Bills going to do about that defense? That's the big question I have and my big concern. So we'll see about that one. But all around, a really good game. And what we needed to start off the opener on prime time, 2 big market teams having themselves a down to the wire game. That's great for the NFL from a business standpoint. Those 2 teams go out there, play a really good game. And then last night we had another game that came down to the wire. The Minnesota Vikings and J.J. McCarthy's debut versus the Chicago Bears. Early on in this game, it looked like the Chicago Bears were going to have their number. And it's crazy because me and my work buddy, who's the Cardinals fan, talked about it. He said, "Oh, I think the Bears got this one." I remember early in the game, I actually only caught the first half because I was really drained and I felt like I had to get to sleep. So I'm like, all right, I'll get to sleep. Just like with the Bills Sunday night game, I went to sleep thinking, okay, so I'm going to get this pick wrong. And then I wake up the next morning. Turns out there was a comeback, and I got my pick right for the second night turned morning in a row. Are they actually big? I mean, I don't know if it's this more so. Yeah, but it's more so with the Barklow and they got the big stars there. So there's a lot of more so marketable players, and there's 2 big you got the guys like the Josh Allens, Lamar Jacksons that draw money for those 2 organizations because of their individual stardom. So by default, yeah, they become temporary bigger market teams by having the right players there. Kind of like the Saints with Drew Brees. The New Orleans Saints itself aren't a big market city team, but when Drew Brees was there, they were a big money team during that time period. It's kind of what's going on with Buffalo now with Josh Allen and Baltimore with Lamar. Like those are the teams like that really like Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, New Orleans that need a star quarterback to help draw money. Indianapolis back during the Peyton Manning years. But yes, so that's what that's going to be. That's what I would say there. It's they kind of do, but that's usually more of a temper. They become bigger market when they have the right players. I feel. But for the Vikings and Bears this Monday night game, JJ McCarthy. Let's face it, he missed his entire rookie season. Obviously, he still got needs to play and get some experience under his belt. But to be fair, they stuck mostly with the run, and it was good enough to win this opening game against the Bears and achieve the comeback. So, great job there with the Vikings. Caleb Williams, to his credit, had himself a pretty good performance in defeat. You're maybe hoping now with Ben Johnson, when you have Kevin O'Connell, things change. Exactly. We saw that last year with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold actually looked good with that team. So we saw what's going on right there. So we'll say this, man. Kevin O'Connell, man. He finds ways to win games with that team. I'll give him props. Now for JJ McCarthy, it's good for him. He's got a good head coach under his belt. It's a and the right head coach, the head coach that can help get the best out of him. You can be a little more patient with JJ McCarthy. McCarthy's got a head coach that can help his confidence, and maybe as the season goes along, he gets some more experience under his belt. He'll start to learn more and pick up. And then by that point, maybe the Vikings could be a team to mess with, and McCarthy could be a quarterback to take serious as the season goes along. For now, like I said, hey, week one, it was good enough. It was good second half, considering this is his first NFL game. I'll give him a pass on it. And for the Vikings, hey, it wasn't the best win in the world, but hey, coming back, new season, new quarterback, you found a way to win on the road, prime time. That's all that matters. A good start. Real quickly before we go on off, I'm going to go through some of the main injuries that happened right there. And we're going to go on from there. I'm going to briefly review some of the main injuries. And you got George Kittle to undergo MRI on his hamstring. At the Cardinals, you had Cody Simon and Joey Blunt were evaluated for possible concussions. Cardinals, Drake London suffered a shoulder sprain. Will probably be day to day. He's going to be questionable as of now. He got Kyler Gordon. You had to add to the injury list. Who else? What are some notable injuries? Hold on a second. Hold on. Give me 1 second. One more thing I need to go over real quick on the 4 o'clock side of things. Just real quickly. Now, let me put it to you this way. The Denver Broncos won against the Tennessee Titans, but Bo Nix looked sluggish. It was more of a loss than a win. I'm sorry. All due respect to the Broncos, yes, you did win, but you barely won, and Bo Nix did not play well. They're going to have to go back to the drawing board offensively and figure out what they can do going forward, because next time they might not get so lucky to get the W. So, hey, take the Broncos. Be thankful you had a favorable game and you got the win, but go back to the drawing board and fix it up next time. Now, that was it. Oh my gosh, you said it best. You borrowed from my term. What else did we have? What are some other notable injuries? We had Brock Bowers left with a knee injury, and he says he should be set to return, but we going to have to see. Now, Puka Nakua, he had himself a good game. He didn't evaluate. for a concussion, but he came back to be fair. But there is some concern long term, though, about okay, is he going to be able to come back and be the guy? You have the 49ers tight end George Kittle was ruled out against the Sea. Kittle was out, like we said. He's going to be out for a while. That's going to be a concern for the Niners going forward. And then Chris Godwin, we're going to have to wait and see what goes on week to week. But the most notable injury out of all these guys this week was George Kittle. He's going to be out for a bit. And we saw last year when they were missing Kittle and also McCaffrey for a period of time. 49ers did not look that great. So that's going to be a big concern for them going forward. Can they continue? I have my doubts about the Niners. So but let's wind down real quick. Go through the week one winners and losers for me. Team winners and losers kind of it's just going to be more of a quick listing it all. Winners for them, week one, I got Aaron Rodgers because he got his revenge against the Jets, 4 passing touchdowns. He gets to feel proud of himself, gets to start off fresh with the Steelers. That's more optimistic for him having a successful farewell tour. Other winners in this one, of course, got to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Had himself a good game, good rookie wide receiver to help along with the mix. The Chargers, Justin Herbert finally gets himself a big win when needed to against a top team. That should help build momentum and confidence going forward for them. For biggest winners, I go J.J. McCarthy for finding a way to give his team the victory, finding a way to make it work. So I give him props on that one. Good one right there. And so let's see, losers now. All right, I'll go even in victory, the Denver Broncos. Not an inspiring performance. Other loser, of course, the Miami Dolphins. Horrible performance. No confidence going forward, like we said. And the last of these main losers for week one, I'll take the Baltimore Ravens. Another late game collapse, uninspiring performance at the end. And that's all I got for you for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This was a fun episode 25. I appreciate all you guys, Arku, Blaze, David, joining in the chat. Mitch, I appreciate it. I'll catch you later tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for week 2 of the Pick'ems. With that being said, guys, thanks for joining. Have a great rest of your day. Catch you later.